Good morning, gentlemen. Happy birthday. Phoebe Mason Abbott Rideout. Miss Mary,
Yes.
these are for the gentleman and lady, and these I'll tell you about in a little bit. This is Mr. David Reed here. He's going to be my assistant, and we have a surprise for you today from the Historical Society, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about my life and how I came to be. Davey, did you want to say something special before we start?
Just wanted to introduce it, if she's already done for us here.
Sorry.
Ms. Rideout, joining us here from the afterlife, and good to see you, Phoebe. I'm sorry, Ms. Rideout.
Ms. Rideout, yes.
Take it away.
Well, as you all know, my name is Phoebe Rideout, and I came here when I was just 11 years old. Came across the plains with my daddy, who came here as a 49er. And he settled up by Oregon House, and he bought property up there, became very well known up there, and established Oak Grove Ranch. Now, it was a beautiful place. It was called the Garden of Eden up there, just vegetables and fruits grow, and we had 10 milk cows to supply the miners. Unfortunately, we built our house on an Indian village, and then you all see fit to flood it, and you call it Collins Lake today. So it is no longer there. But I went to school at Oregon House, and I went to the College of the Pacific in San Jose, and then I met my future husband, and I did all that before I was 18 years old. Now, some things happened in Marysville and Yuba County during that time. My husband, Norman Dunning Rideout, he came here with his two brothers, and they had cousins here, the Greeley family. You know that. You have a street named after them. And at Wilson's Bar, they did some gold panning. That's right below your Bullard's Dam. You guys use that water, right? And so he started being gold miners, and they thought that was too hard to work, so they started supplying the miners. So he moved up to Galatia, and that's up by Camptonville, and he started selling produce and came to our ranch, and we met. And then he moved to Camptonville, and he started buying gold dust. It was so much easier. And on his way to Marysville to a bank that he was going to build down there, the Rideout Smith Bank, you probably heard of that. Well, we met, we fell in love and got married, and we moved to Camptonville. We had our first son, Norman Jr., and then we moved to a house in Marysville when we were going to have our second son, Edward. And that was on the corner of 5th and E Streets. That was a brick building, and it got too small when we had Gracie, so we tore it down and we built a wooden one. And then I realized that there was no public hospital here in Marysville, and so I donated my house to the first public hospital in Marysville. Later that became the Fremont Rideout Health Group. But my son, we built him a house right next door. Now that house is still standing, and that's right next to the little Mary Aaron Museum. Y'all call it the Rideout Laney House. And so that house is still there. Well, my husband decided that he was going to build a bank, and in fact he built 7 of them. And so they were all over. Did you know we had the first phone lines to the bank managers in California? Yep. And so we moved to Sacramento, a beautiful mansion, but it was too small. You call that the governor's mansion in Sacramento now. So we moved to our bank in San Francisco and built our mansion there. And we had a little cabin in Lake Tahoe. But we always registered to vote to where our first home was in Marysville so that we could vote here in Yuba County. Well, Norman had 7 banks, and after the earthquake in San Francisco, he just literally worked himself to death. And that's when I was elected the very first woman banker, not just California, but the whole United States. And I met another Phoebe Hurst, and her son, William Randolph Hearst, built Hearst Castle, and he had this little lady friend, Julia Morgan. I'm sure you've heard of her. So I invited her here to build a house for my nephew, which is still standing, and the first grammar school, which is Covalod School today, named after Mary Covalod. And then built the Veterans Memorial Auditorium, which, let's see, I gave about $167,000 for that, and the city matched it. Unfortunately, y'all tore it down and put in a Jack-in-a-Box and a gas station. So it's no longer there. But we do have some of my buildings still here, you know, Julia's house and my nephew's house, and the school is still there. It's been remodeled and everything. And so these things are important to our local history and the things that happen. My oldest son was killed in a mine accident in Magalia, the mine we owned. My second son, when he went to the University of California, He contracted scarlet fever and was an invalid, but worked for our banks his whole life. And Gracie's granddaughter married McClatchy, the Sacramento Bee, which helps support early Yuba County. So when I was about 87, I decided to take a steamboat to Europe, and I toured all over, and I rode a camel, I don't suggest that, and an elephant and a donkey, and I flew in an airplane. I did all of these things, and when I was 90, I took a tour, a motor tour to my oil wells in Texas. After that, I wasn't feeling so young anymore, and I passed in San Francisco. My funeral was in Sacramento. I was buried at your Pioneer Cemetery, but because of the flooding, we took all of the Rideouts and we moved them to the new Sierra View. It's a little bit higher there. And so I was a woman way ahead of my times, but I like to give back, especially to children, the hospitals and orphanages and stuff. And so as part of your historical commission in my real life, we have a surprise for you and a birthday present. First of all, Miss Mary, you have my gift. Would you do the other little paper first? Mary has a copy of all this, she told me. She's very efficient, by the way, not bossy, are you, Mary? And so if you look in the Thompson and West publication, which, Yuba County was the 27th county, but the 17 counties, Thompson and West, did their history. And I have that on there so you can see that. So one chapter is called Public Works Building, and that tells the exact location where your charter and legislature was signed in Marysville. It wasn't a very big building. It was only 20 by 30. And it had an upstairs, and it was just canvas and wood. And upstairs they had the Masonic Hall, and church services were held there. And so they tore that down and they moved up the street right across where Habitat is and that little park and where Chisler's Inn used to be. Well, they built a temporary courthouse till they built the biggest one. So we're actually on our 4th courthouse here. And the second part of that, John, you have that paper, you can share it if you like. We're actually the very first judge, attorney, clerk, sheriff, recorder, surveyor, treasurer, assessor, and coroner of Yuba County. And in celebration of that information came from Thompson and West and Mr. Vasquez. You're familiar with this book. We're going to show you something, the gift we're giving to Yuba County. David here is going to show that to you. But it came from this book and Anita Laney's remembrances of interviewing people of the early towns, territories, and small burgs that were in Yuba County. And we're going to share this information with the public as our gift to Yuba County. So I have another surprise for you, but I'm going to let Davey do his presentation now.
Thank you, Ms. Rideout. I've got to get to the keyboard, I think. Is it the mouse, Mary, or? Oh, the arrows, okay. All right, I'm always happy to be your straight man, Sue. So, quick presentation. Sue's covered a lot of this already, but we'll just roll through it and kind of take a look at some of the communities in Yuba County that make us who we are today. And we thank the Board of Supervisors for its vision back in 2016 when it actually created the Historic Resources Commission, and proud to be part of that group. And we're moving forward with new ways to share that history and make it a part of economic development in the community. I always like looking at this map. I'm relatively new to town, 15 years and counting, and looking at the length and breadth of our great county. I'm a Plymouth Lake resident, so I'm a county guy, and just love the stories of how these communities came to be. I won't read all this to you, you know, most of the history. I mean, 10,000 years of indigenous history, and then, of course, the gold rush blew the doors off the place, and a lot of who we are today as a result of that. Marysville, of course, one of our 2 incorporated cities, and Sue, feel free to chime in here. The historic Bacchae Parade and the Chinatown, which is one of the oldest in the U.S., right?
Yes, it is. And we just got a grant to make it more well-known for tourism and for our citizens to find out more about it.
A huge attraction. And of course, Wheatland. And Marie left, but I love the story of Mr. Duplex, the barber, who became the first black mayor in the western United States. And the continuation school at Wheatland High School is named in his honor. And
Mr. Duplex is buried in our Pioneer Cemetery in Marysville.
very good. Timbuktu, I love that name, of course, copied from the West African town of Mali. Another one of, is
And 2 black slaves that were freed and we did some gold panning there.
that where it came from? Good, good.
Both.
Love it. I love it. Sue finds these historic photos, and I just put it all together in a PowerPoint. Strawberry Valley, named for all the strawberries that were found.
Wild strawberries that the Indians used, yeah, in the mill.
Browns Valley, Mr. Brown, not much is known about him. He got his $12,000 in gold that he mined and left town. So
He just went there to cut wheat, paid $80 for a sickle, and left town with lots of money, and that's all we know about him.
that's right. Brownsville, a little farther up the road, another beautiful community. Camptonville.
Yes, my first home.
Ah, interesting. Clipper Mills Railroad. Interesting reading about the history of the railroads to bring the timber down from the mountains.
Which is part of our county logo, the wood, the lumber. Yep,
Overland upright.
the wood.
Oh, yeah.
Trees,
Never
lumber.
thought about that. Yeah, fantastic. Of course, you need a lot of lumber to build all these new towns, right?
Yes.
Dobbins.
Dobbins had a hotel, a small community, and Lake Francis, one of the PG&E dikes, part of Yuba Water now. Beautiful lake up there, and it's the gateway to Lake
Lake
Francis.
Francis, of course. Hamilton.
Hamilton, a gold mining dredge town. It's gone now, but it was very popular during its day. Hamilton and Marigold, and we have a new room here at the government center named the Marigold Room.
Oh.
What stands for Marysville Gold? Did you know that?
I did not.
Marigold,
Oh,
yeah.
interesting. Love it.
That's steamship Linda.
Yeah, I love the story of the steamship that would come into town, and that's where Linda got its name, right?
Yeah, she got grounded and they made a bar out of her and then they turned it into a
Well, I
town.
didn't know that part.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, love it. Oregon House, of course.
Yep, where I went to school, first school up in the hills.
That's right. And that was a stop off on the way from Oregon to Point South, so. Of course,
And
Bill's
the
Highway.
new water, Yuba Water Agency buildings up in Oregon
right.
House.
And Rackerby, I love this. I kind of try to pay attention to things going on, but I'd never heard of the community of Rackerby. So
Small.
named for the family and beautiful, beautiful area.
Hammond was near there when he discovered gold in the dredge, so Olive First, yes.
All those folks that came out during the Depression and settled in the area, and I love these historic posters. I'd like to get some more of those.
Mr. Bull settled there and sold land to all of our refugees from the Dust Bowl and created town of Olivehurst.
Fantastic. Smartsville or Smartville?
Well, we got our S back finally. They
We
took
did.
it away when they did zip codes, but we got it back.
That's right. That was a fun story to read, too.
And they have Pioneer Day every year.
Hello, Marica. Don't you live up there?
I do live in Loma Rica.
What's it mean? Rich Hill in Spanish.
It's, in Spanish, it's called rich soil, which is absolutely not true, but the Spanish named it because it looked like it. The wild wheat and clover growing is about 3 feet tall when they came through. They thought, oh, this is rich soil. They named it Loma Rica.
Another great community. And Woodleaf, I've
Ah,
been there.
yes. Gentleman Bandit, Black Bart, hung out there. He had a little girlfriend up there. So
It's a resort and summer camp area.
it
right?
is, youth camp.
And just a quick look at some of the famous folks that have been here. Of course, the Nisenan and Maidu indigenous people. I love that portrait of the young boy upper left. That was taken by the photographer Edward Curtis when he was coming through Northern California. He was hired by the U.S. government to record images of indigenous people.
And that village you see next to that is pretty much where this building is located. That was very close to there, the Indian village, the Uva Indians for Spanish for wild grape.
Great view of the buttes. And
Right.
some of the basket making and other traditional ecological knowledge is still carried forward by the American Indian Education Program, which is part of the Marysville Joint Unified School District. We partner with them. Of course, their powwow is coming up this Saturday at the Tri-County Community Center. Mr. Kovalot on the left and his bride, Mary Murphy, on the right.
Survivor of the Donner Party. At 16, she married Mr. Johnson at Johnson's Rancho, and she's holding her first daughter, Mary Ellen, and behind her is her niece, Naomi Pike. Nye. A beautiful Mary.
James Beckworth.
Yes.
Sorry, I missed, what was it called? Beckworth Days?
Yes.
Which used to be a big event in Marysville. That was just before my time. So fascinating story. He keeps popping up in in movies about the Old West that I've been watching and TV
Well,
series.
James had a young girl about 9 years old that her mother, they were Mormons and they didn't have a wagon. And so she got to ride on his horse all the way and she was fascinated with this handsome black man and his love of the county. And did you know she became the first poet laureate for California? Her name is Etha Coolbrith. That society is still active today in San Francisco, right here in Marysville.
Love it. And of course, for extra credit, anybody recognize this famous gentleman?
Mr. Steve Fields, first Supreme Court Justice appointed by
Abraham Lincoln.
Abraham Lincoln.
All right, how am I
Live
doing?
here in Marysville. You're doing great.
Rubbing off my
Yeah.
these years. And
Black
listen,
Bart.
don't you live with this guy?
Well, Black Bart, came through. He didn't really rob Marysville, but he did get close to my husband, Mr. Rideout. But he got in prison and came back, and he changed his name to Mr. Wells. His real name was Charles Wells.
It was. Okay.
And he's supposed to be buried at our Pioneer Cemetery right here in Marysville.
Can we do some DNA testing on
I
that?
think we should. He had 4 children. They probably have a line there somewhere.
All right. We'll continue at the commission to do what we can to support the telling of these stories throughout, far and wide. The Facebook page is up and running and active. We just did a little work on the website, yubacountyhistory.com. Sue continues to run tours at various times of the year. We collaborate with all the other cultural history groups, including the Sutter County Museum. The History Trail with signage and QR codes explaining more of the history is still in the works. We hope to develop a smartphone app, but we'll show you a sample here of a printed driving tour guide like they've done in Sutter County, which I think would be.
And one thing, if you gentlemen are not familiar with, we have identified 162 historical sites already signed in Yuba County, and we will be adding QR codes to those along with this new website information that people want to go somewhere, they can find how to get there.
That's the Facebook page on the left and the website on the right. But this is a photo of the Sutter County Scenic Driving Tour booklet. It's about 1/4 of an inch thick, nice format, beautifully laid out, and we want to use that as a model for something similar for Yuba County.
So there will be a paper one to put in the lodges, both Yuba and Sutter County, and it'll also be online.
Yeah, we'll do a digital version. So thanks for your ongoing support. Any questions? Should I read the proclamation? Is that us? Or do you read it? Yeah,
Yes.
I should. Okay. May I? County of Yuba Board of Supervisors proclamation celebrating 175 years of Yuba County, California. Whereas Yuba County was established on February 18th, 1850, and was one of California's original 27 counties, and whereas the county's formation marked the beginning of a rich history from the gold rush era that drew thousands to the area and put the city of Marysville on the map to its modern era with a vibrant agricultural industry, state-of-the-art water supply, and flood control infrastructure, host to Beale Air Force Base, and growing and thriving communities from the valley floor to the highest county foothills. And whereas Yuba County's diverse landscape offers an abundance of outdoor recreational opportunities to complement its urban and rural communities, whereas throughout its 175 years, Yuba County has been a place where collaboration, stewardship, and adaptability have made it a sought-after place to live, work, and play. And whereas the county has committed to enhancing the quality of life for all its residents through its efforts in improving infrastructure, pursuing responsible growth, improving safe recreational access through public lands, expanding public safety services, and whereas this anniversary marks not only a reflection on the history and accomplishments of Yuba County, but also an opportunity to reaffirm its responsibility to work towards an even brighter future for its residents. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Yuba County Board of Supervisors recognizes the proud history, golden future, and community pride of Yuba County and proclaims it be honored for its 175 years of resilience and growth. Thank you.
And I have a special gift for you, Miss Mary, if you would. Now, I had my own bank here in Marysville, and so I have made you a counterfeit, I hope the sheriff still isn't here, copy of one of my bills. You will see my signatures at the bottom in recognition of Yuba County's 175th birthday. And if you let me open my bank in Marysville again, the safe that was in my bank is in the San Francisco Bank of America, and they would like to return it here. And I spoke to your new tax person, Ms. Turk, And she said she would be glad to put that in display in her office. We just have to get a wagon and mules and go down to San Francisco and bring it back. So happy birthday, Yuba County, wishing you many more. And I'd love to stay for more, but unfortunately, David and I have an appointment to go see Elon Musk. I'm hoping to be a space pioneer and get on one of his new spaceships to continue my searching for local and world history. Thank you. Happy birthday.
Thanks
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you for the interactive presentation. And